Today's always an important day in HISD, and I'm honored to be joined today for my 6th annual HISD State of the School celebration. Thank you for being here with me and participating in this celebration. So thank you for being here. Also, please join me in saying a special thank you to Trustee Juliet Stepetch, who's sitting right over here, for her leadership as president during 2014. And as you heard before lunch, stepping into her shoes is Rhonda Skillern-Jones. President Skillern-Jones is a passionate leader, and we speak the same language, student achievement. You know, we're singularly focused on our work to raise the level of student academic achievement for every one of our 215,000 students. And it's a mindset that's shared by our Board of Education. And it's a true privilege to work with a group that is so centered on our children. Would you please join me in saying thank you to our board for their hard work. Now, I really love this event because it's my chance to brag on our phenomenal team of teachers, campus leaders, and support staff. They deserve all of the credit for every achievement I'll tell you about today. I'm especially honored to be joined at my table today by Retha Thomas, President of the Houston Education Support Personnel Union, and my friend Gail Fallon, President of the Houston Federation of Teachers. Now, Gail and Retha worked hand in hand with us this year to help us fashion the very first anti-bullying employee policy in the country. And I want to say thank you to both of them, because nothing is more important to me than how you treat your employees. Also at this table is representatives of our business community, of the HISD Foundation, and the love of my life, my wife Nancy, sitting right here. So thank you all for being here with us today. And you know, before I get too far ahead with what I want to talk about, I want to just take a minute and just point to those beautiful displays that you see on your table. Those centerpieces were created by art students from across HISD. And we gave them a simple instruction. Show us what you think global education should look like. And I would tell you, and I think you'll agree with me when I say they did a fantastic job. And I also think it's proof that the arts are alive and well here in Houston. Having a well-rounded, well-balanced child is important to all of us. Now, we don't want those centerpieces to sit here at the end of the day today. So, since we're closing in on Hearts Day, Valentine's, the person at the individual table whose birthday is the closest to Valentine's Day can have that art piece to take home with you, or to give it to someone at your table if you would so like. Now, we don't want any fights breaking out to see whose birthday is the closest. You're going to have to be on your very best behavior here. All right, enough. I've started something I knew I shouldn't have done. Now, talking about art and artists, I want to confess, I'm not an artist, but I've known a few. And one thing I've learned is that artists never think their pieces are finished. They're always thinking they could have been just a little bit better. Now, leading a big urban school district is a lot like that. We're right to be proud of all of our students and the things they've accomplished. Today, more students are graduating from HISD schools equipped to achieve their dreams, no question. We as a team have rallied together to turn around schools in Houston that cynics would want you to believe would always be dropout factories. Today's schools are safer than they've been in years, and the campus crime rate in HISD is down 60% from 5 years ago. But you know, the reality is we still have students in our schools who stumble. And they stumble academically, and sometimes they simply just don't get up. Some of our students come to school afraid because of bullying. The reality is schools seem not to be able to ever really be fixed. And we know in HISD that we don't have all the answers. And we know that we can always do better. So we have a choice. We can get comfortable. We can be satisfied with where we are today, as we can look back and see where we came from. Or we can continue to work hard and we can get better. Now, from our board's perspective and mine and our staff's, complacency simply is not an option. We're going to continue to be bold, aggressive, and creative. I'm going to tell you something. No school district in America, public, private, charter, no one innovates like HISD. We know from our friends at the Greater Houston Partnership and from other business leaders that today's hiring managers are looking for more. They want graduates who are problem solvers and have grit. They need creative communicators. They desire workers who ask the right question in order to innovate. They expect graduates to know how to be part of a team, to work together, to achieve a common goal. The old way of doing school won't give our children these skills. You don't learn these qualities from sitting quietly in rows, memorizing facts, and never questioning those who are fond of saying, "Yeah, but you know, we've always done it that way here." With this in mind, we're transforming the list of qualities we expect all HISD graduates to possess. For our graduates to be globally competitive, they must leave us as responsible decision makers, skilled communicators, leaders, critical thinkers who are adaptive, productive, and ready for college or a meaningful job. Graduates who understand the importance of leading a healthy lifestyle. Now, that's sort of a long-winded way of saying we need to produce more graduates like Felipe Guillen, who you heard from earlier today. In HISD, we have global expectations for our graduates. You see, these are not your grandparents' schools. These are schools in which students are being placed on a path towards bilingualism and life skills. Last year in this room, I told you about our vision for aggressively expanding the number of HISD schools in which students spend part of their days fully immersed in a foreign language. Today, I'm here to tell you we're following through. When students return to school next fall, they'll find we've almost doubled the number of dual language schools to 52, and we're not finished. Now, to put that in perspective, this is the same number of dual language schools currently open in Dallas, Austin, El Paso, and San Antonio's Northeast School District combined. Now, along with our new dual, thank you. Now, among our new dual language schools will be Texas's first public Arabic dual language immersion school. And up next, our first and Texas's first Hindi language dual language immersion school. Now, of course, we can't do this without more bilingual teachers. And this is why HISD is partnering with visiting international faculty to recruit these highly sought-after teachers from around the globe. Now, you can stop and ask yourself, why are we doing this? Well, it's really quite simple. Because Houston is a global city, poised to take an even stronger role in the world economy in the decades to come. But I can tell you, that simply won't happen if we don't prepare the next generation of workers. And those who are bilingual and biliterate will be the very best prepared. We believe that. You see, because global education is more than just being able to speak another language. It's about understanding and appreciating other cultures so that we can successfully work alongside those from different backgrounds. These global-minded scholars must have access to the most up-to-date learning materials. Today, our students learn differently, and we must adjust, delivering their curriculum in ways they readily understand. That means digital materials that are regularly updated so they're always engaging and relative. So we're taking a new approach to physical education. You heard me talk about healthy lifestyles earlier. When we opened this school year, students at 12 campuses were learning healthy lifestyle practices and yoga poses through a partnership with the Sonema Foundation. This approach has proven so popular that in January, we expanded the program into a total of 26 schools where students are engaged in group discussions and character education that helps them stay focused, calm, and it reduces stress. We're going to see this program, no question, continue to find itself around all the schools in HISD. Obesity in our community, in our country, among children, we know, is much too high. The type of stress that we put our young people under in a testing society is significant. We need to teach our children about the importance of good nutrition. We need to understand that not every kid that goes to our schools get excited about bouncing balls. And this new approach is something that we're very excited about. Our parents, our teachers, and our students are excited about, and we look forward to continue to develop. Now, if you haven't visited one of our classrooms in a while to see what students are learning, you should. I promise you'll leave with a new appreciation for the challenges the challenges that you see in our school. Teaching is hard work, and I can promise you, our students and our teachers in HISD are working hard every day. More of our students are taking college-level classes while they're still in high school. Last spring, more than 300 HISD students graduated having already earned a 2-year associate's degree through our community college partnership. 300 kids. Now, I know that sounds impressive. Our goal is 2,000 kids a year. And it's something that we're not going to stop until we see happens. We want to be able to have the type of educated workforce that's going to help drive Houston's economy into the future. We want students that have the skill set to fill these mid-level jobs that we hear so much about from our friends in the business world. Now, HISD students also last year enrolled in thousands of college-level advanced placement exams and international baccalaureate courses in an effort to ratchet up rigor in our high schools. I'm proud to say that they passed over 8,200 of those exams, an 80% increase since 2007. Now, put another way, these students earned 24,000 college credits, saving themselves and their parents over $7 million in college tuition. That's pretty good work. I want to say a special thank you to our Board of Education for agreeing several years ago to pay for the AP exam fee for any student enrolling in an advanced placement course. Now, that's showing faith in our students and great support to our students and their parents, because you see, many of our children would not have been able to take those courses had they been responsible, because they couldn't afford to take and pay for the exam. Something else we did a few years ago with our board support was to offer every single student in HISD a chance to take the SAT college entrance exam for free during the school day their junior year. Since 2007, we've doubled the number of students taking the SAT. Now, you know what happened when we did that? The average SAT score actually dropped. But you know what else? I'm good with that. We knew when you had more kids take the SAT, the score was going to drop. That score is beginning to tick back up, and I'm confident that as we continue to challenge our kids with more rigor, you're going to see those SAT scores continue to climb past where they were before we doubled that number. Let me tell you what else happened. As a result of more kids taking the SAT, it led to an increase of 600 students, most of them Hispanic or African American, scoring at the college-ready level on the SAT in math, and 300 more students reached the college-ready level in reading. Simply stated, more HISD students are showing they're ready for college than ever before. And colleges and universities in Texas and around the country are taking notice. Last year, HISD seniors were offered $255 million in scholarships. Now that compares to just $51 million in 2009. And yet, despite the strong progress, we know we're not quite there yet. In HISD, we pride ourselves in being a district of choice. There's no question, it's a strength. We're the only large school district in America where students can choose to go to school at any school in HISD, in so long as they provide their transportation and their space, or unless they're one of over our 100 magnet schools in which we provide transportation. As a result, we have a handful of schools that consistently earn top ratings from the most prestigious publications in America. And I can tell you, this is our real strength, and we should support our strong magnet schools. And I'm very proud to tell you today that North Early College High School is among only 26 Texas schools nominated for this year's prestigious federal Blue Ribbon Award. But you know, what we really can't deny is this reality. The ugly underbelly of school choice is that the overwhelming majority of our students attend neighborhood schools that have been abandoned by top-performing students who've left to attend those magnet schools. Yes, we have a handful of the nation's academically elite public schools, yet we have scores of children in neighborhood schools that need extra help, a lot of it. And the truth is, the list of Houston schools that most of us in this room would refuse to send our own children to is longer than the list of schools we consider acceptable for our own children. And folks, that can't and that will not stand in HISD. I can tell you, we're lucky. We're lucky because we know what it takes to make up for that inequity. Our school board knows that. And with their help and support, we're doing something about it. And we're not going to rest until we can say that zip codes do not determine the quality of education that a Houston child receives. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was once asked why he refused to wait until more people were on board with his calls for equality and equity. His response was this: how much longer should people have to suffer? Make no mistake about it, despite our very best efforts here in Houston, inequity still exists in our schools. How else would you explain the fact that a white child in HISD is 5 times more likely to be labeled gifted and talented than his African American classmates? You see, in Houston, we currently identify 36% of our white students as gifted, compared to just 7% of African American students and 14% of Hispanic students. The Texas state average for gifted and talented students is 8%. Students from wealthier families are more than twice as likely to be labeled GT than those from poor families. And I tell you, being labeled GT gives a student a big advantage that others don't have. These students have access to the most prestigious HISD schools with the highest quality teachers. Schools receive an extra $400 for every gifted student under our funding system. This means more than 1/3 of our white students are receiving an extra $400 to support their education, compared to just 7% of our black students. For students in our magnet schools, for gifted kids, this additional funding works out to more than $800 per child. Now, we have in the district a newly formed Equity Council, and I'm calling on them today to work with us to help identify a solution to this issue. While we don't want to deny groups of children a quality education, we also want to be equitable in how we identify children to be in our gifted program in the first place. Along those same lines, I believe it's time for us to increase the rigor in all of our schools by ending the practice of offering challenging courses to only some students, while tracking others into classes with lower standards. Our students have clearly demonstrated that when we challenge them, they more than meet our expectations. Now, I have been meeting this past week with our high school principals. And during my conversations with those principals, I've asked them, for example, in English 1, how many sections of English 1 do you have? Some of them said, well, we have general level, and then we have basic, and then we have pre-AP, and then we have AP. We have 4 different levels. But when you look at some of our most successful charter schools right here in Houston, who serve all Title I children, all children of color, they have one academically rigorous level. And they're knocking test scores out of the park. My question to our principals is, why do we have so many different levels when the research is so clear about what happens when you track children? So today I'm announcing that we're reining in this practice of academic tracking that's rooted, I believe, in the bigotry of low expectations. We really don't do our children any favors when we track the majority of them into low-level courses. Now, our school board understands this, and tomorrow I'm asking them to give final approval to a long overdue change in the way we calculate grade point averages. Students who are bold enough to take any kind of college-level course, including those offered by fully accredited community colleges, deserve extra credit. Like I said before, and I've said it many times today, we're blessed with a school board that gets it. A year ago, with our board's approval, HISD sought and won a $30 million competitive grant from the federal government to install a concept that combines rigorous academics with exposure to real-world professions such as health science, engineering, and digital media. This approach, called linked learning, is making classes more relevant and personalized for every student in 8 of our high school feeder patterns across the city. In those schools, gone are yesterday's vocational programs. Today's students are learning real-world, high-demand professional certifications that lead to great-paying jobs, and if they choose, college acceptance. Next year, we're expanding our linked learning approach to an additional 10 high schools, with the balance of our high schools to come on board the following year. You see, here in Houston, we innovate, and we never turn away from those in need of a little extra help. For example, last year we saw news reports, all of us did, how other school districts and states across this country refused to welcome new students who were fleeing Central America's drug violence. In Houston, not us. We welcomed them. And over 3,000 of those students are attending school right now at HISD today, and they're getting the best education they've ever received. And several years ago, when Texas Education Commissioner Michael Williams made the tough decision to dissolve the North Forest School District for the children's sake, charter school advocates claimed they offered the only hope of academic salvation. Other school districts told Commissioner Williams they weren't in a position to take the challenge. Again, not us. In HISD, we welcomed our new students. And last month, the commissioner wrote in the Houston Chronicle that the progress being made by our North Forest students is truly remarkable. And I tell you, I couldn't agree more. The work that the teachers, the principals, our support staff, our parents and students are doing in North Forest is truly, truly remarkable, and it's something we should all be proud of. Now, how do we absorb a school district like North Forest? It's over 7,000 students that came into our school district, and we didn't know because of litigation that we were getting those kids until July, and we had to start school the 4th Monday in August. How did we turn that district around? And I can promise you, our board president, Rhonda Skiller-Jones, and our past president, Juliet Stepetch, represent those areas, and they'll both stand and tell you they have not nor have I, nor do we know of any school board member that's received one letter, telephone, email, text, or any type of correspondence from anyone in that community complaining about what's happened since that school district was absorbed by HISD. So how did we do it? It's simple. We applied the lessons that we learned from our Apollo 20 school turnaround plan that has school districts from all over America coming to Houston on a regular basis to see how we did it. When they show up here, I always tell them the same thing. No silver bullet, no magic formula. It's hard work, and it requires the political will to do what's right, even when critics cling to the status quo and push back. And I promise you, they push back. In North Forest, we hired principals and teachers who use data strategically to fill the gaps in each child's education. We gave these students more time in the classroom. We hired tutors. Most of those kids 3 to 4 years behind. We cleaned up the buildings. Now, in spite of our efforts, all of us have heard from folks who claim that the Apollo program didn't work. They say it was too expensive. Many of them say it failed. And you hear a lot of yeah buts. For example, yeah, 4 of our 5 Apollo graduates were accepted into college. But what about those who weren't? 2/3 of those schools came off of the school's failure list, but 1/3 didn't. Now, you can't win sometimes. And if I've learned anything in my years as a public school superintendent, it's this. Listen to the critics, hear what they say. They have a lot to offer, and you can learn a lot. But at the end of the day, no matter what, always keep it about the children. Always keep it about the children. And you see across the country urban schools that aren't doing the things they need to do. They aren't making the progress they need to make. This past week, our friend Eli Broad from the Broad Foundation announced that they were dispensing with the Broad Prize, a prize that HISD won for the second time several years ago, becoming the first school district to do that. And when you talk to Mr. Broad about that decision, it's a simple decision. He said that urban schools were not making enough progress fast enough. And I can promise you, I think in a lot of those places, they don't have a board like we have here in Houston. It keeps the children at the center of their decision-making process. Too many other urban settings focus on adult issues first and children's issues somewhere down the line. And I can promise you, you're lucky here, we're lucky here in Houston in so many different regards. We're lucky to have a board that behaves that way, and I can tell you something else. We're lucky to have a city that's not given up on its public schools. And I want to say thank you to all of you. Your presence here today demonstrates that as clearly as anything could. You know, as we look back on what we've learned from Apollo, I can tell you that it's now influencing our work with students in every school across HISD. There's not a school in our district now that doesn't use tutors and use tutors extensively when kids are behind. The quality of teachers that we're hiring in Houston today, the quality of administrators that we're selecting to lead our schools is quite frankly something that I'm impressed with and very, very proud of. And one of the things that we talk to our new leaders about is that I believe too many leaders in this country are pedestrian leaders. They're simply trying to get from one side of the road to the other without getting run over. They're not risk takers. They're not willing to do what it takes to get the job done for kids. Now, I understand the political risk. The average tenure for school superintendents in this country is about 2.5, 3 years in urban settings. It's hard work. School board members will tell you, for every time they hear someone say, "Thank you, what a great job you're doing," they have 3 other people complaining about something that did not go quite right for their kid. And we understand that. We understand that. But I can tell you, it takes a community working together alongside of a board and administrative team and teachers who are willing to take risks, because you can't do the same thing the same way you always have and expect to get different results. It just won't happen in urban education. It won't happen. So, again, board members, thank you. And thank you for being risk takers and for facing the political heat that often comes from focusing on our children rather than on adult problems that often threaten to derail our progress. I also want to say a big thank you to our philanthropic community for investing in our work to drive meaningful change for our students. We know that everything we do to help HISD schools to produce prepared graduates hinges on one thing: providing every child with a great teacher. And competition for teachers and principals in our area is fierce. Today in HISD, our starting salaries for teachers and principals are below those being paid in many neighboring school districts. We must remain diligent in our efforts to attract and retain our effective educators. We must also do everything we can to encourage our top performing teachers to teach in schools where we need them the most. In the coming months, our team will bring forward a proposal to reward teachers for both their experience and their effectiveness. Our teachers deserve it, and so do our students. These teachers and students also deserve modern schools that are designed in ways to encourage 21st century learning opportunities. Because of your support and generosity, we're conducting groundbreaking ceremonies across the district for new voter-approved high schools. When all is said and done in a few years, Houston, as a city, will boast the most modern collection of high schools of any big city in America. And frankly, that really translates into, since 2000, all of our high schools would have been completely rebuilt or completely refurbished or remodeled to very high 21st century standards. That's phenomenal. And it's going to lead our city and serve our city well for the next 50 to 75 years. And because of our school board's commitment to equity and to quality, we are placing a laptop computer in every high school kid's hand in HISD. This is year 2 of our rollout, and by this time next year, every high school student in HISD will have a laptop to use at home and in school, just absolutely eradicating the digital divide that we have seen in our high school students. And I promise you, we aren't just giving these kids a tool. We're giving our teachers and our principals the type of training they need to use these laptops to drive instruction. We've said forever, it's not about the machine. It's about how and what you teach and how you do that differently than standing up in front of a group of kids and lecturing. We're moving very rapidly to project-based learning, which is the way businesses operate, and it's the way that kids learn. We also know that we have to work hard to find ways to cascade those laptops down into the hands of our middle school students. And that's something that we're currently looking at, how we could repurpose some of our dollars in HISD to make that a reality. I also told you last year that too many of our students were falling behind because they live in families that tend to move from school to school year after year. This past year, we took a look at our 13 schools in HISD who had student mobility rates somewhere in the 40% range. That meant that during the school year, in these 13 schools, over 40% of their children changed school 2 to 3 to 4 times during the school year. Often that was driven, without question, by poverty. So we questioned what we could do, because we know that in a child's career, if that child changes school more than 3 times a year for more than 3 years in elementary level, 80% or more of those children simply don't graduate from high school. So we introduced a new innovative program that we called Home Field Advantage. Now, my friend Bo Porter's here today, and Bo and I had a chance to talk, and Bo can tell you that usually when you play at home, your winning percentage is a lot higher. Right, Bo? Absolutely. So we decided we would treat those children like we do magnet school children. So regardless of how many times you move, we'd simply provide you a bus and bus you back to the school where you started during the school year. What we have found so far this year, and I'm proud of this, is that mobility rate in every one of those 13 schools has decreased significantly. And we now plan to expand that program to several other of our schools in the coming years. We also, a year ago, promised an aggressive cure for Houston's illiteracy problem. Today, we've replaced a patchwork of reading programs that vary from campus to campus with a single research-proven literacy approach. Today, all of our students are spending 90 minutes in class actually reading from classroom books specifically chosen for each child's individual reading level. So they're challenged and they're engaged. Now this year that program's in kindergarten through 3rd grade, and next year we plan to expand it to our 4th and 5th grade classrooms across Houston. Also, as we attacked this whole issue of literacy in Houston, which is a stubborn problem across the country, we launched a new program called Read Houston Read. And it's a project and a program where you, every one of you, can volunteer to help a child read one day a week for 20 minutes, and guess what? You can do it from your home or your office or anywhere else you have access to a laptop. We're in real need of volunteers. And I promise you, pick a school, pick a child, give them 20 minutes one day a week, and you'll change a life forever. We need you. Our children need you. Getting engaged in this Read Houston Read program can give you the chance to help us make a difference in the life of a child, and that will be lifelong. So think about it. It's easy. You call my office. You can go online at HoustonISD.org, and the instructions of how you can volunteer, they're there. They're very clear, and it's easy. Now, in closing, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit more about our Emerge program. It's a program that identifies low-income, high-potential students and helps them gain admission to and graduate from Ivy League and Tier 1 universities. Following my first year here in Houston, and I came here in 2009 in September, that year I had an opportunity to attend a Teach for America banquet right here in this room. And we're Teach for America's largest customer, by the way, in the country, right here in Houston. And when I was at that banquet, I had the opportunity to run into a young man by the name of Rick Cruz. And Rick walked up to me and said, "You're the new guy." And I said, "Well, I'm the new superintendent." Rick said, "Well, I'm Rick Cruz, and I am Teach for America." And I looked right at Rick and I said, "Well, are you going to stick it out with us, or are you going to go back to the corporate world the way some Teach for America teachers do?" And Rick said, "Well, you know, I really would like to stay, but I want to make a bigger difference for more kids than just the 5th grade kids I have in my classroom." He said, "You see, many of them are smarter than I was when I was in the 5th grade. All of Rick's kids, all of them, poor Title I kids, all of them were non-white, majority of them Latino, African American, and Rick's sitting here, and Rick's a Yale graduate. And Rick will tell you, he's here today, he'd tell you he was serious about that." And so I said to him, "Well, you know, Rick, why don't you stick with us and help us fix that, because that's long been a passion of mine. Because when I go to high school graduations, I shake hands with kids who walk by me with honor swords on. And those kids, I say to this, where are you going to college? Where are you going to school?" You would not believe the high percentage that would say a local community college or a local university that has no admissions requirements. And I was startled. I heard very few kids, even at some of our flagship high schools, talk about going to Tier 1 or Ivy League schools. And I just thought, I've never worked any place where we had so few of our kids going to the elite colleges and universities in our country. And I thought, what would it look like, and how would Houston's future be changed if a significant number of our low-income kids of color were to go to Ivy League Tier 1 schools and graduate and come back and be part of the leadership of our community? How would that change Houston's future? And Rick and I talked about it, and he said, I'm up to the challenge if you'll help me. I said, consider it done, you're helped. What do you need? He said, I'll let you know. I didn't hear anything else from him. I thought, well, he's just a kid talking. And about 6 months later, Rick wanted some money. And he wanted some money to help with a program he had dubbed Emerge. And I thought, well, okay. And we talked more about what he was going to do with the money. And he and one of his colleagues from Teach for America had started this program. And they offer tutoring, guidance, after-school activities. All this is in the evenings, and all of it is on Saturday. And kids like Felipe that you met earlier many times would travel miles to get to one of the Emerge centers. Had one young man ride his bike 10 miles to get there. Interestingly enough, their work around SAT prep, how to write a meaningful college admission statement, what activities to volunteer in, what courses to take in high school, that year paid dividends for 2 kids. He got 1 kid into Tufts and 1 into Harvard. And I thought, wow. The next year, that number grew to 7. And he was calling me, bragging about and telling me what he was doing, and I got to get excited. And I thought, this thing has some potential. And so I called Rick into my office in January, 2 years ago, and I said, I have a proposition for you. He said, okay, what do you got? I said, I'd like to promote you from a 5th grade teacher to an assistant superintendent for college completion. And we're going to significantly raise your salary. And we're going to give you a huge budget where you can go out and hire people to help you grow and expand this Emerge program. And he looked right at me and he said, well, I have to think about it. I said, well, what do you mean think about it? Well, long story short, 2 weeks later, a lot of hard negotiations. And I tell you, that kid's a negotiator. He agreed, and he came on board. And so that summer, Rick put 64 low-income, high-potential kids on an airplane with tutors and mentors from here in Houston and flew them into Boston, and they toured the Ivy League schools. At the end of the school year, all 64 of them accepted into Ivy League schools with full academic scholarships. That were valued at $250,000 each. I'm excited. You know what? All 64 of those kids are still in college. All 64 of those kids are still on track to graduate, along with the other 7 and the original 2 who are going to be seniors next year. I get choked up when I think about it, and the difference it's making in their lives and in their families' lives, and the difference it's going to make in Houston is phenomenal. Now, this past summer, 98 more kids, different kids, on an airplane to Boston. I'm going to tell you something. Wait and see. All 98 of those kids are going to end up with full academic scholarships to Tier 1 Ivy League schools this year. As a matter of fact, over 1/2 of them have already been accepted on early admissions. These Emerge kids, as you saw with Felipe, they're phenomenal. They're trailblazers. They're setting tangible examples for others in our underserved communities to follow. And they remind all of us that our children's ability to succeed is really driven by one thing, and it's about expectations. I want to remind you of something. Those expectations are shaped by the adults that matter in their lives. They're shaped not by their parents, they're shaped by their teachers. If not by their teachers, they're shaped by their coaches. If not by their coaches, by their guidance counselors. I promise you, the adults in their life, for better or worse, are helping shape those expectations. And with Emerge and the job that we're doing with our teachers, I'm here to tell you, it's for the better. Now, you heard me talk about the important role that counselors play. I want to tell you real quick about one of our best. Sharpstown High School has a counselor, Victoria Dawn, who's doing more than her part to help students. So, Victoria, why don't you stand up? You're here, I saw you. Where are you? She's right up here at the front table, right up here. Now, I'm telling you, she's doing more than her part to help our students set new scholarship award records every year. She created on her own a new college and career center at Sharpstown High School, and she manages all of her students' college applications. She also established a partnership with Rice University, Baylor College of Medicine, and other universities and institutions here in the Houston area. Her own time, without pay, she conducts SAT boot camps that raise student score averages around 70 points, which I promise you, a 70-point increase in SAT often means the difference between a kid getting a look at Harvard and getting into Harvard. And I tell you, it's working. Scholarship offers to Sharpstown High School students has reached $5 million, a 40% increase since she started doing this work. Thank you. More importantly, I think, she's also working with our Emerge program to share her strategies by training counselors across the district. We can never, in HISD, have enough counselors or teachers like Ms. Dawn. And again, thank you for your leadership. Now, unfortunately, in HISD, some of our principals simply don't have the budget to have counselors. But you know, that's about to stop. As a matter of fact, it's going to stop very quickly, because today it's my pleasure to announce that HISD has been awarded a pair of truly generous grants from the Houston Endowment that's going to transform the lives of children who may not have attended college otherwise. The first grant, for $3 million in matching funds, is going to allow us to deploy at least 28 more college counselors across the district for the next 3 years with some ambitious goals. We're going to increase college-going rates by at least 20%, and we're going to significantly increase the number of students who actually stay in college and finish. And we're going to see a minimum 20% increase in the number of students who receive financial aid. Now, the second grant is a true game changer for our Emerge program, the program that produced Felipe. That grant, in the amount of $5.5 million, will fully fund the expansion of Emerge from the 25 high schools where it's currently being offered to all 45 of our high schools. Now, this is going to allow Rick and his team to work closely with a total of 750 sophomores, juniors, and seniors a year, and eventually support 1,000 Emerge Alumni College students. Thanks to this generous grant, the number of our Emerge scholars will more than double to 250 in 2 years. It'll also free up district funds to create a team of 15 college readiness experts to directly support all of our high schools. Now, folks, frankly, this is what makes Houston different, and it's what makes Houston special. The philanthropic and business community stepping up, looking at what works, and then willing to invest their money to see us cascade and expand what works. I believe that the Houston Independent School District is about that far away from being a truly great school district. We're already the best urban school district in the country, in spite of what critics or anyone else will tell you. I'm telling you, we're already there among the big urbans. I know them all. We're that far away from being the best school district in the country. When you look at our children, 64% of whom receive free and reduced lunch, that come to us from over 116 countries and speak 100 languages other than English as their first language. 92% of whom are not white, are non-white, and you look at where our teachers, support staff, administrators, and parents have come from over the last few years, we're that close. We're no longer bleeding students to charter or private schools in HISD. We just simply aren't. In fact, last year, students from charter and private schools returned to HISD in record numbers. Our student population of 215,000 is the largest it's been since the early 70s. Now, with your help and our board and staff's continued commitment, there's no question about what we can become. I want to say thank you for being here today. Thank you for your support. God bless you, and God bless the Houston Independent School District. Thank you for letting me be with you.